Many thanks for staying with us. We now tell you that Nigeria's House of Representatives has tasked the Joint Admission Matriculation Board to extend the deadline for the registration of students to allow more candidates participate in this year's matriculation examination. This followed a motion raised on the floor of the House, where lawmakers mandated its Committee on Education and Legislative Compliance to enforce strict adherence.
Without extension of the restriction, many candidates will not be able to register and participate in the exercise. And that means there will not be a wider coverage and participation in this year's JAMB examination in Nigeria. Convinced that your quick response to the extension of time by 2 weeks will encourage the parents of this candidate to persistently register their children. Importantly, this will reassure the public on the confidence of this current administration.
A conservation initiative for environmental restoration and carbon isolation is underway in Nigeria's Niger Delta region. The conservation project would generate carbon credits that would be used as source for alternative income for those locals who may otherwise earn money from illegal logging and deforestation. News Central's correspondent Austin Azu completes the reports.
Mangroves play a key role in coastal line defense, protecting against sea level rise, storm surges, and erosion. They also safeguard the ecosystem by functioning as natural pollution filters. However, with the crude oil exploration and spillages in the Niger Delta region, there have been an alteration in the natural sequence. Against this background, the Cerebib Capital, Aid Vasa and Foundation for Partnership Initiatives in the Niger Delta are set to collaborate with the Delta State government on a wide-scale mangrove restoration and conservation projects in the Niger Delta region. Delta State Governor, who expressed deep commitment to environmental conservation and development of the region, said the Pioneer Creative Solutions would also address local demands for job creation, infrastructure development, education, and climate resilience building.
This program set a practical precedent by demonstrating how environmental stewardship can harmoniously coexist with human development aspirations. I'm deeply committed to environmental conservation and sustainable development, and therefore ready to endorse the groundbreaking mangrove and seagrass conservation.
According to Cerebib's estimations, the mangrove restoration project has the potential and aims to sequester up to 5,320,000 tons of carbon each year, while helping to prevent the deforestation of 250,000 hectares of forest and replantation of 20,000 hectares.
So, to answer your question, we're beginning this, the work starts in March. Hard in terms of actually deploying the program, we're probably still 10, 12 months away because there's work that has to be done in terms of looking at soil sampling, population sampling, a lot of work on the ground that has to be done.
Just recently, a bill for the conservation and protection of ecosystems and endangered species has just been passed for first reading in the House of Representatives.
This initiative will no doubt promote responsible resource management, including its contribution to carbon reduction targets, improved air quality, and public health in the Niger Delta region. In Asaba, for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
And I'll tell you that the Nigerian government has launched the Outsource to Nigeria initiative, expected to tap into a 350 billion naira global outsource market. The initiative is also expected to reduce youth unemployment in the country and help Nigeria provide available skills to countries in need. Amadine Uyi tells us more.
The global outsource market in 2023 was worth almost $350 billion. With Nigeria not among the top countries benefiting from this industry, despite having a youth unemployment bulge comprised of several skill sets in need. Nigeria's federal government has launched the Outsource to Nigeria initiative, also known as UTME,
which is a timely and strategic public-private partnership that can massively create jobs and scale up Nigeria's business process and IT-enabled outsourcing sector. The initiative offers comprehensive enablement across infrastructure, private sector incentives, talent development programs, and active promotion of Nigeria's proposition. Our dynamic private sector with government support is well equipped to drive Nigeria's rise as an outsourcing giant.
The initiative, which is private sector driven and anchored by the Office of the Vice President, will connect international companies to skills available in the country.
This presents an unprecedented opportunity for job creation, entrepreneurship, skill development, and economic growth by bringing high-value outsourcing jobs onshore. As part of the broader agenda for national transformation, UTME can also significantly advance human capital development, productivity, and be a tool for poverty alleviation.
Nigeria has the right skill sets. We graduate 1 million graduates every year with different skill sets. With this positioning, with this Outsource to Nigeria initiative, we are positioning Nigeria to be the leader in the outsourcing industry.
Outsourcing experts say Nigeria is well positioned with its large youth population and available skill sets.
We have the skill set. We have the young people, energetic, vibrant, and then we have, companies like Amal's who are already doing this for the last 5 years.
With UTME now in place, officials say the federal government's resolve to solve unemployment in the country will now receive a big boost. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
To health matters now, Nigeria's House of Representatives has called for mandatory drug testing for students across the country to help curb the menace of substance abuse. This followed a motion on the floor of the House on the need to introduce mandatory drug testing for secondary school students in Nigeria, owing to the increasing recorded cases of substance abuse being witnessed. The House, while expressing worry over the situation, urged the Federal Ministries of Education and Health to collaborate and develop a mandatory drug testing program in secondary schools, and also urged the National Orientation Agency and the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency to increase sensitization among students.
Also worried that according to studies which showed a notable prevalence of drugs and substance abuse across secondary schools in Nigeria, 1 in every 4 students between 15 to 19 years abuse substances. Syrup containing codeine and tramadol top the list of drugs, ranking higher than cannabis. Aware that random student drug testing, RSDT, is a drug prevention program whereby students are tested for recent use of illegal substance and is aimed at deterring drug use and identifying students who need help with staying drug-free. Cognizant that a mandatory routine and random drug testing for students is for preventive, not punitive purposes, and early intervention is crucial for achieving success in tackling the menace of substance abuse.
We also tell you that a civil society organization, Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, CAPA, has urged the federal government of Nigeria to fully implement and increase taxation on sugar-sweetened beverages to a minimum of 130 naira per litre. The organization made the appeal at a public presentation of the simulation study of the potential fiscal and public health effects of SSB tax in Nigeria on Thursday in Lagos. News Central's Adeshawo Dushoga reports.
In 2021, the Nigerian government introduced a sugar-sweetened beverage tax embedded in the Finance Act of 2021, introducing a 10 naira levy for every 1 litre of carbonated drink and non-alcoholic drink. Now, what this means is that for every 50 centiliter of carbonated drinks such as this that you consume, the Nigerian government gets 5 naira. Now, a civil society organization is asking the Nigerian government to increase the 10 naira levy for every 1 litre to 130 naira per litre on carbonated drinks. The executive director of CAPA, Akimbode Oluwafemi, emphasized the need for a multi-sectoral approach that combines policy engagement with public awareness, community mobilization, and stakeholder consultation and engagement.
The government does not even have the revenue to spend on public health. And so by going this way, government again can also begin to earn maximum of this money to fund access to health in Nigeria.
The organization made the appeal at a public presentation of the simulation study of the potential fiscal and public health effect of SSB tax in Nigeria.
As you're increasing tax, you're also controlling the behavior in terms of response of the industry as well. For example, I made mention during my presentation the case of South Africa, whereby they are charging their SSB tax based on the sugar content of each product. So if that as well can also be implemented in Nigeria, it's something that will make this very effective, and our desired results will be achieved.
This is what CAPA is doing. We are trying to, let's start from the root cause of these diseases. That's why we are saying people should reduce the excessive intake of sugar drinks and also promote the public policy, that is the SSB tax policy. We know that with this tax, we can reduce access to unhealthy drinks, and we can also make it less affordable for the general public.
Some of the major health implications of the excess consumption of these fizzy drinks include obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart diseases, mental disorders, and cancer, amongst others. With the rising cost of treating this non-communicable disease, the group said it was important to discourage the source through awareness and a tax system. In Lagos for News Central, Adeshawa Odushoga.
The Nigeria police force has not so cordial relationship with Nigerian citizens, according to what we know. This somewhat not so called pleasant relationship stems largely from the excessive force on people, cases of corrupt practices, and many instances of infringing on the rights of the citizens. While it must be noted that there are police officers who live up to their responsibilities, the actions of the bad eggs amongst them has over time left them with a serious trust deficit. News Central's Bettina Nweli tells us more in this report.
The relationship between Nigerian citizens and the Nigeria police force is a love and hate one. On the strength of the mantra, "The police is your friend," many expect the force to provide citizens with security and safety. Unfortunately, many Nigerians have sad tales to tell of their bitter experiences at the hands of officers of the police force.
Police is the friend of community. Right from time, police is my friend. If you don't steal, you don't fight, you don't commit, you don't do anything, police is your friend. So if you follow those laws, police are your friend.
If they are a friend, they're supposed to be like watching over us, not going after us, not arresting innocent souls, trying to save lives and properties and take care of the needy. But this way now you find it when you see a policeman now who arrests somebody driving on the right side, trying to install money from them, that is wrong, totally wrong.
Stories abound of cases where police officers have abused citizens and violated their rights, and in some cases, innocent persons have been subjected to harrowing ordeals as criminals. But the police authorities are making efforts to right these wrongs through various means, such as their complaints response unit.
Other states have started coming up. Lagos State was the first to create a complaint response unit. So this is to make officers accountable, and it's a good thing. It's good to note that many Nigerians, or many Lagosians in particular, now have been taking advantage of that. They quickly reach out to us when they see things going wrong. And we also take advantage of multimedia messages too. People just take out their phones, record police officers misbehaving, and send to us, and we're able to use it. So we are very mindful of that, and we encourage more and more people to take advantage of the complete response unit, take advantage of the numbers we've rolled out there, numbers of all DPOs, so that by the time you call your DPO and there is no tangible response, at least it's closest to you, then you can reach the complete response unit, and we'll try to do something about it. Well, for Lagos State, we have 2 3-digit numbers, and they are toll-free. We have 767, and we have 112, and they actually work.
In any society, it is the responsibility of the police to maintain law and order. The significance of this role cannot be overemphasized, and this underscores the importance of efforts to reform the Nigeria police force. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
Leading advertising agency Dentsu Nigeria recently hosted an event in Lagos, Nigeria, to address the current state and future of the marketing communications ecosystem in the country.
The marketing and advertising ecosystem in Nigeria has witnessed remarkable progress in recent years. It is particularly evident in the adoption of new technologies and the increased sophistication of marketing strategies employed by agencies and brands alike.
The Nigerian advertising industry is regulated in practice and as a business. And so this is an opportunity to tell the global market, the global players, that we have some peculiarities in terms of what we do and how we do it.
A lot of things have changed. We have seen the evolution of the digital space. And we have also seen the fragmentation of media, reporting, and media generally. And we have also seen the shift from TV being the first screen to digital platforms, our phones and mobile platforms suddenly being the first screen.
The recent Dentsu Africa Summit held in Lagos provided inspiring insights on digital marketing. The theme of one of the panels, The Revolution of Digital Commerce, highlighted the industry's forward-looking approach and its commitment to embracing change.
Many people talk about the future and assume many things and forget that they're actually in the position to make that future real. And the only way to do that is to start now. Try things, test things. You have to experiment.
So the Now Summit is about reviewing the past, where we are today, and set the agenda to consider what role technology will play, how do we plug into the AI ecosystem, where are Nigerians, and then unpack the new skill sets we need to take marketing communication to the level it desires in this part of the world.
By embracing innovation, the Nigerian marketing communications ecosystem will play a leading role in shaping the country's economic landscape and propelling it towards a brighter future.
The news continues in West Africa, where a major Senegalese civil society collective says it is joining forces with the opposition to ensure the presidential election is held before April 2, when President Macky Sall's mandate runs out. The West African country plunged into its worst turmoil in decades after Sall's last-minute deferral of the presidential election that was due to take place last Sunday. The Asunu Election Collective said it was joining with a group of 16 of the 19 candidates approved by the Constitutional Council to stand in the presidential poll. It is also uniting with the opposition coalition F24 and the Front for the Defense of Democracy. Now, to discuss this, we're joined by Kop'ep Dabugat, African Affairs Analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Thanks for having me, Lekan.
So what's your assessment of the level of unity and cohesion among the various opposition parties and civil society groups in Senegal with the presidential election in lieu?
Well, I would say there is a very serious divide within the Senegalese political space. We've seen a national dialogue taking off earlier this week and coming to an end. But to our greatest surprise, none of the opposition, figures, opposition candidates attended the national dialogue. That speaks a lot of volumes, even though decisions have been made for the elections to be moved to June 2nd. To be held on June 2nd, and then also for the Constitutional Court to also designate the successor for President Macky Sall. So it's a very hot head we're treading on now in Senegal, where the opposition, along with some major civil society networks and movements in Senegal, are on one side, while the government is on the other side doing its own thing. One side is rejecting the move to hold elections in June and insisting that the elections have to hold between now and the 2nd of April, when the presidential term is supposed to come to an end. While on the other hand, the government is now having a new plan to hold elections on June 2nd. So these are mutually irreconcilable positions. How that would be managed, I think, requires a lot more thought, a lot more effort from the international community.
So that means now that even the Asunu Election Collective is saying that it will play an influential role in the outcome of the presidential election. With these differences in dispositions to the election, they might not be able to cause an upset. Is that what this is tantamounting to mean?
Well, I wouldn't want to predict what will happen, but I know for sure that the social movements and the civil society organizations in West Africa are speaking for the people, even though, of course, there are several other leaders that are calling for caution and perhaps some more dialogue, some more meaningful, balanced dialogue. But for now, we see a position whereby two strong forces are miles apart, the people versus the government side. And we hope that the Senegalese people will be able to find common ground very soon, because this is a potentially escalating situation.
But I'm just tempted to ask, is there any significance to the dates that should be apportioned or slated for the presidential election? Because if some people are saying it should be held before April, some are saying it should be June, some are saying it should be December. Is there any significance to the actual dates to the presidential election? Of
course, there is a significance. Why? Because for over, I would say, 3 decades now, the dates of the handing over of the president has never changed from 2nd of April. So this change is unprecedented, given that initially, in fact, it was couched within a move to extend the president's tenure. Or so, it appears to the people, of course. And then, of course, now there is no reason to say you're pushing the elections beyond now till June or till December. There is just absolutely no reason. All the preparations were made. The political parties have indicated their readiness to go into the elections. And I would want to assume that the election management body never really came up to say they are facing any challenges of conducting the elections. It's just the president who single-handedly feels that the elections should not hold. So there's no justification for it. But the people, I think the will of the people should prevail. Be taken serious.
Okay. Kop'ep, Dabugat, it was nice talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well. Welcome.
We now tell you that Crime Against Children report released by Stats SA on Tuesday has shown that households with children of 17 years and younger experienced high levels of crime. The data agency's Crime Against Children report revealed that most murder cases affecting children reported to the police were in the Western Cape are 23.8%, KwaZulu-Natal 20.7%, and Gauteng 17.8%. Reported cases of sexual assault of children were the highest in the Western Cape at 24.6%, followed by Gauteng at 21.8% and KwaZulu-Natal at 14.9%. The report also states that children are also affected by crimes they experience or witness within their households. To discuss this, we are joined by Dr. Shaheda Omar, founder of the Teadbear Foundation. Dr. Omar, it is nice having you join us on the news.
Good afternoon to you and to everybody out there.
Okay, so what more details about this can you tell us, looking at the specific crimes that South African children are mostly exposed to?
Well, I think just to add to your landscape, we know if we look at this last quarter period from October till February 2024, on average, at least 3 children are murdered on a daily basis, and we know it's 3 children and 12 women. But if we also look at the total number of reported cases that we are faced with. So I think we need to bear in mind that this is an underestimation. It's not an accurate reflection of the gravity of the situation out there, where during this period, 285 children were murdered, but 2,707 children, as you spoke earlier, you alluded to the fact of grievous bodily harm, attempted murder, sexual assault, and also other forms of violations against children. So what we are faced with is really a huge concern, because it hasn't decreased. If we look at the history and the trajectory over the past few years, unfortunately, the incidence and prevalence continues to rise and affect the mental health, physical health, and well-being of each and every child. Even if the child is not a direct victim, they become indirect victims, because if we look at the mental health, a lot of children are plagued with fear, anxiety. Families are afraid to let their children outside, away from their immediate vicinity. I think society as a whole has become quite anxious, and people are concerned about their safety, not about their own safety only, but even regarding children's safety. And we know that children are a very vulnerable and marginalized population group, and they're not in a position to defend themselves or protect themselves. So often, as a result of that, they are the softest targets and easiest victims of violence.
Now, we are talking about kids aged 17 and below, and you have talked about societal concerns as regards offering protection to these kind of people within that population. So tell us, what kind of support or help is currently available or can be made available for these children who have been exposed to these sexual crimes and harassments?
So firstly, I think just that the immediate support that one would look out for, and which is often the overarching responsibility of government, law enforcement, certainly, where we're looking at the South African Police Force, particularly the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit. But there are also helplines, toll-free lines, like Childline, the 116 number. Then there's a Lifeline. There's the Gender-Based Violence Command Center, 0800 428 428. And there are other facilities, the child welfare societies that are based in specific communities, and the Department of Social Development. So these are the facilities or resources and platforms that victims of violence and their families could certainly reach out to for immediate support and attention. But if we look at, so you're asking in terms of, so what kind of support is being provided? Even within the school structure, we know there's a lot of violence that has escalated at school level, and it is a fertile ground where children are being subjected to the scourge of violence. So again, within the school structure, there are facilities and psychological services that provide immediate debriefing, psychological support, but even places like the Teadbear Foundation, the NACC, Childline, these are also resources that reach out to children in crisis.
Okay, so quickly, let's look at it from the home front. So what are the things that parents and caregivers around these children can do to protect them from such sort of assaults? Just in about 30 seconds, your response, please. Thank you.
So parents need to communicate to children. They need to speak to children about being aware, about being alert, not reaching out to people and providing personal details or identifying particulars, or even if someone approaches a child to say, I need directions, please assist me. Children should be alerted to these kind of responses that are waiting around their immediate environment. They should not walk alone. They should walk in numbers back and fro from school, should also walk in groups and not walk alone, not actually go out at night or even during the day. Parents need to be alerted to the whereabouts of their children at all times.
All right, Dr. Shaheda Omar, it was nice talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. We move on now to tell you that Zambia's President, Hakainde Hichilema, has declared a national disaster to address the prolonged drought gripping the country, affecting 84 out of 116 districts. In a national address, President Hichilema expressed concern over the impact of poor rain, warning of potential food shortages and electricity challenges as Zambia relies heavily on water sources for energy production. Water levels at the Kariba Dam, a key source of hydroelectric power shared with Zimbabwe, have dropped to about 11.5% of usable storage as of December last year. The president noted that the drought, which led to a loss of more than 450 megawatts of power, is causing a lot of problems. Now, President Hichilema announced the deployment of Zambia's defense forces to assist in addressing the crisis, emphasizing the need for long-term solutions to the drought problem. From other continents, we tell you that the health ministry in Hamas-run Gaza said on Friday that wartime death toll had reached 30,228 after 193 new fatalities were recorded in the previous 24 hours. The ministry also said 920 injuries were tallied in the same period in the besieged territory, bringing the total wounded from Israel's nearly 5-month-old war against Hamas to 71,377. Earlier, at least 112 Palestinians are said to have been killed and 760 injured trying to get desperately needed aid in Gaza. Crowds descended on a convoy of lorries on the coastal road southwest of Gaza City in the presence of Israeli tanks. And joining us now to give us a bit of more inside story is our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, now, can you give us a bit of additional details looking at what happened within that axis in Gaza?
Absolutely. So the Israeli army claimed that at about 4:40 a.m. local time, the humanitarian convoy made its way to the west of Gaza City. Now, according to the IDF, in their words, they say that the convoy was besieged by a mob. It was ambushed, bringing it to a halt. They say that they fired warning shots to disperse the mob and that there was no strike conducted towards the aid convoy. Now, satellite images and video released from that incident tell a different story. Eyewitnesses say that Israeli troops opened fire on the crowd as people pulled boxes of flour and canned goods off the trucks. That caused them to scatter, and some people hid under cars and under the trucks themselves. Now, after the shooting stopped, people went back to the trucks, and apparently the IDF opened fire again. Following the incident, medical teams were overwhelmed by the amount of people that were not only killed but also injured, and dozens were taken to the Al-Shifa hospital, which is about 4 kilometers away from the site of that incident.
So has there been any reaction to this tragic incident, whether by the West or by any international body of late?
Absolutely. The UN have said that they are appalled at the reported killings and injuries. The UN Security Council have scheduled a closed-door meeting that will take place today, I believe. Algeria is tabling a motion saying that the IDF opened fire on that convoy, and that's why that incident happened. 14 of the 15 members of the UN Security Council have agreed to that motion going ahead, with the exception of the United States. They have blocked that motion because the US says the incident remains unclear. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has condemned the incident and said the desperate civilians in Gaza need urgent help, including those in the north, where the UN has not been able to deliver aid in more than a week. President Joe Biden has expressed concern over this incident and said that he's worried that it might complicate the efforts by mediators to broker this temporary ceasefire. Now, he's been talking about this since last week. At the beginning of this week, he had said that by this coming Monday, he had thought that a ceasefire would be in place. It doesn't look like that is going to happen, and he is now concerned that that incident might push back the possibility of a ceasefire even further.
So that would mean that the issue of getting aid into Gaza might just continue, and that might just be a big problem, isn't that?
Absolutely. The issue of getting aid into Gaza is a really, really big problem at the moment. Yesterday, I was talking to you guys about the fact that the US is talking about dropping aid into Gaza, using drones perhaps to do that. But it would only be able to deliver sort of like 1 or 2 trucks worth of aid in that airdrop. Gaza needs 500 trucks a day of aid. That's food, that's medicines, canned goods, flour, canvases, things for tent shelter. At the moment, it's only getting about 90 trucks a day, and some days it's even less than that. That's why you probably have an incident like this, that when an aid convoy does come in, it's besieged by people, and so many people want to try and get that aid because Gaza is so desperately lacking in what it needs. And the issue of aid is only going to add to the humanitarian crisis, which is occurring in Gaza every single day. You know, the Gaza-run health ministry, the Hamas-run health ministry, has estimated that nearly 31,000 people have died there. 25,000 of those are women and children, and those numbers are only going to grow. And it's not just from bullets, from bombs and being buried under the rubble. It's now going to be from starvation, exposure, and everything else that adds up to this growing humanitarian crisis.
And that's actually a dire situation in the Gaza Strip. But then, Afia Hagen, it was nice talking to you. Thank you so much for the updates. Jose Peseiro has left his role as the coach of the Super Eagles after taking the team to the final of the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations, AFCONs. The team lost to Côte d'Ivoire in the final of the competition, and his contract with the team expired in February. Although there were reports that the Nigeria Football Federation was negotiating with the Portuguese to renew his contract, and despite calls for him to continue, the 63-year-old revealed his Nigerian journey has come to an end. This he confirmed via his ex-handle. The former Venezuela manager thanked NFF officials and players for their support during his time in charge. Peseiro was appointed Nigeria coach in May 2022 on an initial one-year deal. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, we take a look at some of our top stories. Nigerian government slams $10 billion fine on cryptocurrency trading platform Binance over illegal forex transactions. Senegal civil society opposition united for polls before April 2. Zambia declares national disaster over prolonged droughts. You can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. And don't forget to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekan Onabanjo.